art studio doesn't reach what I feel right now. But you have continued to do work that just spreads that cry for justice and for dignity. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'll be glad to bring this to anybody who has a question to ask.
Akiva, some of your mosaic work, show how big they are,
Yes.
and make sure people understand that these are tiny pieces of mosaic glass to make up this work.
The average, so the 10 of them, the average size is probably about the size of this here. They're 40 inches wide. Yeah, maybe not quite as tall, but close to it. So they're a good size. And if there's interest, and perhaps I could do a presentation of just the mosaic drawing combos sometime, if people are interested. Yeah, they're pretty big. Thanks, good question.
Akiva,
Yes.
I seem to see something of Chagall in your paintings.
I like Chagall, I'll go with that.
I mean, the free-floating figures and something of the colors, so it seems like perhaps you were influenced by him. Is that possible?
Back in my 20s, when I was in college in Illinois, there were a number of people, artists whose work I enjoyed and read up on and so on. Or I used to go to the artists in Chicago, and Chagall was among them. I've always been a fan of Chagall's work. Great artist. Thanks. Yes. We'll get there.
I was wondering about the wings. How you came to that, and whether you're a believer in heaven, or what do you make of the wings? Are they angel wings? Are they bird wings?
All
They're very important wings, I think, but because the people are all incredible people.
Very, very good questions, each individually with your overall question. I myself don't believe in angels, even though that's almost considered anti-American. I remember seeing it might have been like National Enquirer or something at some supermarket years ago. I was waiting in line at the cash register, and it said, like 80% of American people believe in angels. That's interesting because I didn't show it here. There's only so many works I could show, but I did a drawing of Elie Wiesel's beloved maternal grandfather in the series. And I did the drawing first, which includes wings, and then I sent him a photograph of it and asked for his approval. And I mentioned in the letter I wrote him, I said, I don't believe in wings myself. He wrote back, which is interesting because he was raised religious. And he, all through his life, post-war, he attended synagogue, was observant, and he wrote me that he doesn't believe in wings and angels either. So the wings just came to me with that first drawing, the trolley, as just something, I don't know, metaphoric, consciously, subconsciously. And then when I decided to do a series with the second drawing, I thought, well, this will work as a means of making a subject that's really horrible, really awful. I know Jewish people who would see Schindler's List. I wanted to make it accessible, so the wings are really like a means to an end, as well as whatever visual aesthetic, however I can do it. I don't know if that answers your question, but which part didn't answer?
But it does unify your thinking of all the superior people, wonderful people. It does unify them.
It unifies them.
But I still don't get, if you don't believe in angels,
Well, angels.
why did you give angel wings to everybody?
Well, see, the concept of angels is that would be an individual interpretation. The depiction of another PowerPoint presentation I made a few years ago to show my mom's building at the Jewish old folks home in Frisco here, is wing depictions in art through the ages. So wing depictions in art goes back to antiquity and a whole variety of cultures, ancient, all through different centuries and modern era, and they transcend different faiths, cultures, and so on. They don't necessarily have to be angels then, if that makes sense. That's my thinking anyway. And people can disagree with that, of course. Thank you.
Just an observation on that. Tony Kushner is thoroughly secular, but his Angels in America kind of obliges us to think of the idea that there is sanctity here, there, and everywhere. But the question is, what is the color? Is it watercolor? And how did you hit on yellow to dominate so much?
Yellow?
Yeah.
The color works?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't noticed that, thanks.
I thought of the yellow stars, but that's kind of sinister.
The black and white drawings are India ink, old-fashioned drawing technique, and a lot of the drawings that have color is like gouache, like watercolor. Sometimes those colored pencils. There's drawings that have thread and stitching and so on. And then the mosaics, mosaic drawing combos have a whole lot of color interspersed in both the mosaic areas and in the drawing sections. It just kind of happens. You know, I remember when I was in college, I read a book by this late British art historian named Herbert Reed. Sir Herbert Reed, you're familiar. And I read this book called To Hell with Culture, interesting title. And he wrote about his view that, like, whether it was like people drawing bison and cave walls in the Pyrenees, or like, you know, Mozart or Bach or Picasso, whoever, it was all magic. He called it the magic of art making. I've always loved that idea. And people ask me, how do you do this? I say, I don't know. How does a composer compose? You know, how did I do this like gefilte fish Hanukkah menorah? You know, it just happens. It's just the magic of art making.
Well, it is unflinching realism, I can see that.
What's that?
It is unflinching realism, I can see that.
Unflinching realism. I can't tell if you're being serious or paranoid.
I'm trying to be funny.
Someone had, Brooke.
Did you have a question?
Yes. I just want to thank you for putting in the District 100 thing. And what that arouses in my mind is my memory of him writing in his prison writings. People should just, Christians he was addressing, should just sell the churches, go out in the streets, don't even use the word Christian. Take your money and make good use of it.
You were referring to Bonhoeffer, is that?
Bonhoeffer,
yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
right.
Thanks.
He was murdered April 9, 1945, in the death camp at Flossenburg. Yeah.
I have two questions. One is, what is the meaning of having the candles in pairs?
In pairs. Well, I think this is, we might be related. It might be related, like a distant cousin of my mother's, because I never thought about this before, kind of like, I went to shock with my mother's question, but why don't the shoes match it? So I have no idea why the candles were in pairs, and I wouldn't have even noticed it until now. Thank you. That's great. I have no idea. What's that? Yeah, that would be so you have 8 candles in the Hanukkah menorah, and then you have the main one that you use to light, you light first, and used to light the others, which I have separate there.
What is the meaning of the Hebrew inscription?
Actually, it's in Yiddish, and it says...
it's actually, it's
Hebrew.
transliterated. It says, rare, Puget Sound Gefilte.
Right, it reads from right to left. Yiddish is written in Hebrew letters. And so that's what it says, rare, it doesn't say the, but it says, rare, Puget Sound Gefilte. That's
using Hebrew letters, but spelling English words.
Right.
Oh, English words, not English words.
Well, the Yiddish is
What's the Yiddish?
yeah.
Yiddish.
In terms of reading it aloud, you mean?
Yeah.
Actually, it's probably the same. It's probably the same thing. I mean, I can sound out each letter in Hebrew, but
So it's Resh, ayin, resh, gimel,
Rare.
that's rare. It's taking Hebrew letters but not making Hebrew words. The sound of the Hebrew letter and just letting it be there, but you wind up saying an English word. Is that helpful? Okay, this is something that Akiva's done before.
Right to left, yeah.
Akiva.
You may remember the musical, what was this popular musical in the 1960s? There's a line there, the Hebrews do it backwards. I can't think of what the musical was. It's really famous. Does anybody?
Is it Fiddler?
My Fair Lady, right. So Hebrew and Arabic are both written by English standards backwards. Well, they would probably say we write backwards, but yeah.
Amy, your earlier question about wings. I remember visiting you once, Akiva, and asking you, and you said no to this, and it was a strong no, but I'm still dealing with that. I asked you if you put wings on those figures, particularly of children, did you imagine that if they could have had wings, they might have escaped? And your answer was no. That was never in your mind.
It isn't in my mind when you ask that, or say that right now. I mean, there was no possibility that they could have wings. So it's like an after-the-fact metaphoric depiction. Here's a drawing I did, one of 3 drawings I did around 1995 that were all awaiting their wings. The other 2 were still awaiting their wings. I just drew the wings on this sometime in the last year. Finally gave him his wings. But the question to me is more kind of like academic. But others may think differently. Over the years of talking with people, studio visitors, in my old Pioneer Square studio, I remember, Christian viewers were at exhibits of certain, I don't know, whatever denominations. Well, here's something I also strongly objected to. I remember Christian viewers telling me that they're in a better place. Now, to me, that doesn't fit into, my Jewish upbringing was Reform, non-Orthodox. I was bar mitzvah, but we weren't observant at home. And whatever I've learned about Judaism, I've learned as an adult. But I don't think of that concept as fitting into Judaic life. The concept of like eternal salvation, being in a better place. To me, I find it objectionable. Well, I disagree with it strongly because I don't feel like to be murdered, have your life taken away from you prematurely, is being in a better place. So if certain Christian beliefs have it that you're in a better place after death, well, that's just a entirely different way of thinking than mine. So,
when Akiva is finished, I invite you to come forward and see these 3 works. And I want to underscore that these 3 are actually quite small in the whole of the work that Akiva has generated over years.
A lot of works are much larger, especially the mosaic drawing combos. I just mentioned this boy was drawn from a Warsaw Ghetto photograph. In the center here, you'll see when you come closer. This drawing I did maybe 2 years ago of an American Marianal missionary, Catholic, who was volunteering with other nuns in El Salvador. They were raped and murdered by National Guardsmen of the El Salvador military. Some viewers may find it interesting because I've intertwined the wing I drew of her with the wing of this young Argentinian young man. He was, I think, 19 or 20 when he was murdered by the Argentine military during the years of the military in Argentina. He was actually thrown out of a plane, Air Force plane over the Atlantic Ocean. I remember reading about that at the time, or after Chile and Argentina, about that type of execution of political prisoners. And I was kind of startled. After I did the drawing, I was looking on the internet for English language articles about what happened to him, and I found an article about how he was actually killed, murdered. I prefer the word murdered. This is the 28th, the most recent drawing in the Under the Wing series. Bobby Kennedy. Now, there were all these articles and TV news shows in June, which is the 50th anniversary of his assassination. The only drawing I've done in either series, not just wings, I drew a whole bird, a parakeet. And from a photograph, well, I had a parakeet when I was 15. Parakeet died 5 years of age. Parakeets can live to about 10 on average. Bobby Kennedy, I think, was like 40, in the mid-40s when he was assassinated. But I think both their lives ended far too prematurely. And I'm going to read this, my inscription here. My pet parakeet Monty, 1965 to 70. And Bobby Kennedy, 1925 to 68. He was 43. In 1964 autumn, I was 14 years of age, and I volunteered after school in the evenings stuffing envelopes for his campaign at the Eastern Queens Young Democratic Club. I remember mentioning this to my father because I was going over to this place like 1 or 2 nights a week, stuffing envelopes. There was all these like old, to me there were all these old guys, you know. It should have been cigar smoke if there wasn't any. My father said, how old are these young Democrats over there? I said, well, I'm the only one who's like probably younger than 60 or 70 or something. The old guys gave me an RFK, Bobby Kennedy medal tie clasp, which I still have, as a thanks. And he was elected senator. And then I wrote, today, July 8th, 2018, P.S. I miss both of them. Now, it's easier, you can miss a parakeet or a pet dog or cat. You can get a new parakeet, a new cat, a new dog. What's harder, it's interesting, with all the commemoration that was going on in June about Bobby Kennedy, I keep on thinking, why can't the Democrats come up with a candidate who did what Bobby Kennedy singularly did, was able to do what hasn't been replicated since? They're bringing together white blue-collar workers, Hispanic Americans, Jewish Americans, Catholics, educated, college-educated, computer folk, the whole across the realm. Anyway, thank you very much.
We thank you, Akiva.